Now, obviously, a lot of what we're going to talk about with Biden centres on this appalling optic yesterday where he was stood with an ice cream game. There'll be a ceasefire on Friday. We've got one of my... I love this man, military analyst Sean Bell. We're going to talk about the defence cuts. But can we start, Sean? That optic yesterday of the leader of the free world... standing there, forget the ice cream for a minute, saying there's going to be a ceasefire. And within 4 hours, you've Benjamin Netanyahu, who suddenly doesn't want a two-state solution, wants to rid the world of Hamas, which I think everybody understands. Hamas came out and said, Joe Biden's just electioneering, for God's sake. And everybody who runs around the place, Sean, going, let's have a ceasefire, let's have a ceasefire. The two protagonists don't want to play ball, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sorry to pour a bit of cold water over all the enthusiasm here. As a military, I try and stay away from the political side. I think everybody's trying to see an end to the devastation that's happening in Gaza.
Absolutely.
We hit a really grim threshold of 100,000 casualties in Gaza the other day. 30,000 people killed, 70,000 injured. They reckon at least half those are children. The real need to try and find some way of stopping this. Prime Minister Netanyahu's made clear he wants to go into Rafah in the south. 1.3 million refugees that are there. If he goes in there, the UN say it's going to be a bloodbath, trying to find a way of taking the sting out of it. That's what Biden's trying to do, and it's also what our Prime Minister's trying to do, everybody's trying to do.
But my point is this, and you can say from a military point of view, Benjamin Netanyahu wants to get rid of Hamas. Hamas want to still govern Gaza under their terms. Militarily, there ain't going to be a ceasefire when the two protagonists are at odds. The rest of the world can crow, is what I'm saying.
You can say that, but I think it's interesting the pressure's been building on Netanyahu. It's not only the international community, it's been escalating with the Houthis attacking Red Sea, it's been Hezbollah up to the north, and even now in Israel, a recent poll turned around and said most Israelis believe that you can't destroy Hamas, and also they're going, more needs to be done about the hostages. And there's not been much talk about the hostages, and there's been lots of protesting going on. I think all of those come together. Netanyahu, although his instinct is I want to wipe out Hamas, he's got pressure on all sides, internationally and nationally. He's trying to find a way of just easing the pressure slightly, and therefore things like the negotiations are a way of doing that.
Because actually he has to do two things. He's got to try and defeat Hamas, but not lose the sort of the PR war on the international stage, and that's where his tactics and strategies are losing him support from key allies.
It is, but I think there's an interesting perspective. But books will be written about this, about what was his motivation. I'm not entirely sure. He's alienated a lot of people in this. I think it's almost certainly he sees an opportunity to destroy Hamas. Again, from a military perspective, is destroying Hamas actually possible? Most Palestinians, most Israelis believe that that's not possible. Yeah. And the danger is, again, I've never believed, we do military studies when I was in the military, never believed there's a military solution to what's going on at the moment. Will Israel be safer as a result of this war? Almost certainly not. The visceral hatred that it's been generated. Therefore, and what's the military action is a way to deliver a political end state.
Were they not forced?
What is that end state?
Were they not? I mean, listen, we've tried to cover this as dispassionately as we can. Everybody was appalled by those atrocities on October the 7th. I feel like Israel was forced to take action, and quite rightly so. You can argue from many different sides. If you tell 1 million people to move from the north to the south because we're going to go and get Hamas, and when they go to the south, we're going to say, we're going to still come for you, I understand that argument. I also understand that Hamas is a terrorist organisation that has used the people of Gaza as human shields. That's an absolute fact. But militarily, as you just said, sure how it's possible.
The trouble is, we don't have time to explore this properly in a show. What I would say is when you do study the region, the population of Gaza has been in an open prison for quite some time. Unemployment to 50%. You've had quality of living going downhill. They haven't got hope. And in that sort of environment, it's a petri dish for terrorism. It's a petri dish. If your political masters aren't delivering change, you look to somebody else to help do that. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute it's excusable what happened on the 7th of October. The clock didn't start on the 7th of October.
No, but I would also counter that, and we all have different opinions, with actually Hamas has run Gaza for years and spent billions on tunnels rather than education, hospitals and people. But what I'm trying to say from a military point of view is how can anybody see an end to this? Where do you think it ends?
Well, I think whatever's going to happen, we might well have some sort of pause for a ceasefire it won't be a ceasefire, sorry. A ceasefire is a stop with a view to ending the war. It'll be some sort of pause. Hopefully that will liberate some more of the hostages, but the hostages, there's no mention of any of the military hostages being released at all. And whilst there's a hostage remaining, Netanyahu will want to go after Hamas. So once there's been a pause, They'll go after the 4 battalions of Hamas. That's between 300 and 1,000 people per battalion that are still in there. They'll go after them. And at the end of that, then there'll be the day after. And it's what's, I think, fascinating is that's when the real challenge starts.
Yeah.